Hi, I'm Kendall, and this is day 12 of Kendall Writes a Story. And for today, I thought I would open up my writing binder for you and walk you through the story as it exists so far. I think another added bonus of this, in addition to hopefully quenching your curiosity, will also help tie in the storycraft conversations we've had earlier this week, kind of help you'll be able to visualize and see it all coming together. So that's what I have planned for today. So let me reset my camera, open up my book, and let's get into it. Okay, so you're probably going to see a split screen now, so you can see my hands and down here and my face. I don't know why you'd want to see that. So what have we got? Well, first, let's look down at the screen here. So what you have, think of it this way, you have 4 rows, right? And that's what we're going to put cards in. So you basically put a bunch of cards up here, put a bunch of cards up here, put a bunch of cards up here, so on, and you have a story, right? Each little card is a scene, all those make a story. Pretty simple in concept, right? So here's how these rows break down. The first row, this is Act 1. These next 2 rows are Act 2 together. Act 2 is really big, right? It's where all the things happen. It's where Indiana Jones chases the Nazis and all the bad guys, right? So Act 2 is quite big. And then at the end you have Act 3, which is your resolution, right? Act 1 and Act 3 are both around 20 minutes long, and then Act 2 is, 40 to an hour in a general breakdown. Make sense? On each of these cards, I basically have what happens. I have obviously the number of the scene. I have key important things that have to be included in there to make my story work. And then as reminders, I have what moods are we going to and from? Are we going from relieved to confused? Are we going, any of the moods? And then what's the struggle here? Make sure I'm keeping that in mind the whole time I'm writing this scene, making sure that that struggle is coming up. So that's what we have here. And now I have to get off lunch break, so I will pick this up here in a moment. Hi there. All right, I'm back. You'll notice it's a totally different day. I got quite busy yesterday, so I had to sort of redo some things. But let's jump back into where we're at. So I was going to go over the story that I have, and as a quick reminder, 4 parts of the story, right? The cards that I'm going to share are going to be over Act 1. I do have cards for the later acts, and I'll lay them out, but I'm not going to go into detail on them. 1, because I want to keep the story fun and exciting and fresh for you, but then 2, I haven't written the scenes yet. So I know the arc of the story, and I know the arc of the characters, but I haven't figured out some of the details of, is the scene going to be in a church, or is it going to be in a field, or those sorts of things. But I'll give you a sense of where things are going. So we'll start off with scene 1. How do we start the story? We start it by talking about the house, right? That is how we're going to begin and how we're going to end. So we're going to start at the cabin. And we're going to start at it in 2020 as it is today. And you'll notice on the bullet points here, the things that are very important about this scene are pointing out the difference between civilization and wilderness. And I think this site is a really great site because it is close to both of those. And that is generally what this story is about, is a person and a society's journey from this sort of fake civilization down to wilderness and then up out of it. That's the arc we're going after. So we're going to start that in scene 1 here. Then we go back into time and start telling our chronological story, and we start off in the 1840s, 1850s in Memphis, Tennessee, where we meet Abram Wade for the first time. He is a slave, and he is being sold at one of the 8 auction markets in Memphis. This is also where we meet one of our main antagonists. He is a historical character. He's a person whose name you probably do recognize. So, in that scene, we learn about this world of civilization and wilderness. We build that out a little bit, and we also build out, the world that Abram lived in, and what the options were. Because it is a complex world. So we'll build that out, and then third, we start to complicate things. Third here, we've got General Steele invades Little Rock. So this is real life event 1863, the fall of 1863. Union General Steele invades Little Rock and captures it, conquers it, whatever phrase you want to use, reclaims it, liberates it for the Union. And this is what starts our action. This is what gets our real life folks of John Aiken and Emmanuel Aiken and Abram Wade to start thinking about leaving their lot in life and joining the Union Army. And if this is starting to sound familiar, it's because we're getting to the end of, we're building up towards what's going to happen at the end of this act, which is that choice. Do I stay in the world that I know, or do I go into a new world and hope to do good, right? All right, then fourth scene, we get another little complication, and that is that Abram gets accosted by some guerrillas, G-U-E, guerrillas, which again were a real thing during this time. And this is sort of a moment for Abram. And so anyway, he is out, he gets accosted, and that gets him to start thinking about whether he should leave or not. He's starting to see the society, the civilization crumble. And that's what we achieve in that scene. Then General Steele finally, he finishes his assault on Little Rock. He liberates it finally, and it's that night that they decide to go to Fort Gibson, to walk the 80 miles to what is now Oklahoma and Native territory to Fort Gibson to sign up for the Union. And so this happens in this scene. And then the final scene, the way we end this act, is with him at the sign-up table, getting ready to relinquish his horse, his mare. It was a 3-year-old mare we know from papers, as well as the corn and everything else they brought with them. And it's him wrestling with that decision and deciding whether or not he truly wants to embark into this new world. And then he makes his decision. And that's Act 1. Now, getting into Act 2 and Act 3, right? So here's my index card, and basically, Abram gets out of the military. We find a world that is quite a Twitter with Reconstruction, right? Between 1868 and the 1870s, well, really between 1865 and the 1870s, there were federal troops present in most of the South that enabled and enforced a lot of the changes, because they were really heavy changes very quickly, right? You have an entire population that is now free and able to do what they want and able to earn wages. But then in addition to just that very basic thing, there were lots of very progressive acts that were happening at the same time to try to help these freed folks out. So we see public schools for the very first time in the country and in Arkansas specifically, and it's specifically to help African Americans, freed folks, but they're open to everybody. So we see public schools. We see, now not in Arkansas, but in the country, we see our first senators and governors that are African Americans. So a lot of progress, a lot of time and effort, and we build that out. At the same time, Abram begins to build his life. He begins to build this cabin. And one of the first things before he even builds his cabin is our B story here, right? Scene 7. And that is Abram gets introduced by John Aiken to the neighbors. And there is a young child there who Abram begins to know and to love and care for. Abram's in his 40s at this point, so he begins to care for her like a daughter, and she does play an important role. She teaches Abram some very important things, and he teaches her, hopefully, some very important things. So all of this is happening in the backdrop of all these huge political changes. And I will say, Arkansas at this time, there was some wildness. There was this concept called the Brooks-Baxter War that lasted for like a year and a half, where things were fairly anarchic. But then things start to get better, it seems, and then we have the Klan come in. In real life, the Klan was founded in 1868, and they begin to do some really bad stuff. And I think I'm gonna end it here because I don't wanna give away the ending or anything like that, but hopefully it is a good sense of what to expect. Again, if you do wanna try to predict what happens, again, the whole internal object of desire here, the whole theme arc is about wilderness to civilization. So that's what we're trying to build. Yeah, so that's what I got for today. I hope it's a great Friday for you, and I hope it's a great weekend. We'll see you here on Monday. Stay safe and wear your masks. all the time you're with people outside of your own home and closer than 6 feet. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.